The Greater Manchester police officer bombarded victims of domestic violence with flirtatious and inappropriate messages after he'd been called out to their homes, a misconduct panel heard. PC Richard O'Connell formed personal and sexual relationships with vulnerable women who were victims of crime, who he'd met after responding to emergency calls between 2011 and 2018. The officer, who worked for the force since 2006, sent one woman a text calling her fit and told another victim he wanted to take her out for a drink and that she was really good looking. A misconduct hearing at GMP headquarters in Newton Heath heard PC O'Connell also formed a sexual relationship with one woman, referred to as Ms. A, he met through his duties, and that the two of them had a child together. The panel heard that the officer had attended the woman's house in response to a 999 call-out in 2011 after her partner reportedly refused to leave the address. Ms. A was classed as a vulnerable woman and had been subjected to domestic violence and also had mental health and alcohol issues, all of which was known to PC O'Connell. His behavior towards her was described as flirtatious and over-friendly, and later that day, the panel heard he returned to her house in his own car and informally dressed. The officer asked Ms. A if she wanted to go on a date with him, and they both swapped telephone numbers. They started a relationship which led to the birth of her child in 2012. The panel found. The officer commenced a relationship with a vulnerable individual who he had met through his work and continued with the relationship. The officer asked Ms. A out on the very day he met her in the course of his police work. He pursued the relationship and had a sexual relationship with Ms. A. PC O'Connell was also found to have accessed police systems to view information relating to Ms. A, which he had no policing purpose to do. He pleaded guilty to 4 offences contrary to Section 55 of the Data Protection Act 1998 at Liverpool Crown Court on 11 November 2020. The misconduct hearing was also told that he interfered with an investigation against him by contacting Ms. A when he was forbidden from doing so and concocting a story. PC O'Connell was also found to have exchanged inappropriate contact with another victim of domestic abuse, referred to as Ms. B. There were 402 messages exchanged with Ms. B, 240 from her and 162 from the officer, the panel heard. Calls included wishing her a happy birthday with 3 kisses and I hope you have a good day with 3 kisses. Other calls included references to her hobbies and a dancing trip to Croatia. He was also found to have made flattering comments about the woman's appearance. The panel heard that PC O'Connell told the woman that under different circumstances he would have loved to have asked her out and bought her a drink in Yates. He also made a remark that she was really good looking. In his defense statement, the officer accepted that he was mostly drunk when he made contact with her. The panel heard that Ms. B became increasingly concerned and uncomfortable with the messages and told her mother and work colleagues about it. The third woman, referred to as Ms. C, was a vulnerable victim. The hearing was told she treated PC O'Connell as a friend and didn't find the messages uncomfortable or think he'd done anything wrong. There were 430 voice calls and text messages. 206 from Ms. C and 224 from the officer. The messages included very friendly exchanges between Ms. C and PC O'Connell. The panel heard they both engaged in friendly discussions and often added kisses to the end of their texts. The officer referred to Ms. C looking fit and having a short skirt. Another woman, named in the hearing as Ms. D, was said to be a long-term victim of domestic abuse and had reported an incident with an ex-partner in 2017. There were 2,448 messages between the officer and Ms. D from in the space of 10 months, the panel heard. They were nearly all text messages, 1,353 from Ms. D and 1,095 messages from the officer, and 359 telephone contacts. On 7 September, there were texts sent throughout the night. Messages included references to the officer wanting to be her fella in a fun way. The panel concluded that many messages were clearly flirtatious and not sent for policing purpose. In 2018, PC O'Connell attended an incident involving a woman, referred to as Ms. E, and her child. The hearing was told he sent her a text saying he was called Richard and sent a further message saying I miss you. There were 24 messages between them. Ms. E said she felt initially a little uneasy and uncomfortable. She later said she found the message saying he missed her horrible and she panicked. Another woman, referred to as Ms. F, was deemed very vulnerable. She described herself as being in a bad state and saw the officer in 2018 in respect of an allegation of assault. The panel heard that Ms. F recalled the messages were random and out of the blue, along the lines of asking how she was. She found it strange and overfamiliar. In his interview, PC O'Connell said that he sometimes had contact with Ms. F late at night when he had had quite a bit to drink. He told the hearing that he had a problem with alcohol and that he had sent many of the messages whilst drunk, but no medical evidence was provided to the panel to support this. The misconduct panel concluded that all his behavior constituted to gross misconduct. The officer has since left the force but would have been dismissed if he was still a serving officer. He was also placed on the barred list.